right, with our header complete, let's go ahead and do the footer. And like I said, the footer is actually a bit easier than the header. Now, what I want to do for the footer is a little bit different. So normally, what I would suggest doing, if you look at more footers, they're usually a secondary menu. So when you look at the functions here, and we made this menu, blah, 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 you see how it says header menu? Just make another one, call it footer menu, and then you could just call it footer menu, right? Footer menu location. And then when you would go into WordPress, you would actually see it as an option. So meaning that when you're in here and, where we see header menu, you'll see another one for footer menu. And then you would just incorporate it the same way that we did right here, okay? But you could format it differently. Obviously, I try to stick it in this thing. You probably wouldn't want to do this. I would just make it go across, okay? But, you know, why do the same thing again when we can do something a little bit different? So instead, what I'm going to do is make something that's going to hold widgets, okay? So that's another option that you often see. So in case you don't remember what widgets are, they are this. So actually, never mind. They're not even showing up. So we can't actually use widgets until we register them, much like what we did with the menus. It's another feature that I want to include. Now, this is going to be a little bit more code. It's not as simple as the other one. So let's go ahead and register the widgets, and then you can kind of see where I'm getting at with this. Okay, so after this add theme section here, we're just going to go ahead and we are going to add a bit of code. I honestly probably just suggest copying and pasting what I wrote, because I think it'll be a little bit more timely, and I'm actually going to do that myself. So I'm just going to copy this, Control-C, and we're going to paste it, Control-V, and voila, look at how quickly I was able to type that up. Isn't that amazing? But it works the same way as the other items where we're going to register a sidebar. So technically the widgets are sidebar elements. In a sidebar, you might have noticed that most of the time, like the default layout is that you have a web page. Well, let's just use ours as an example. We have a web page here, right? And usually it'll have a heading, it'll have a footer, and then it'll have like this area over here. It's a sidebar. And your content will be over here, but there'll just be this extra section on the right. And usually has like last posts and like categories or search and things like that, all on the side. And that's called a sidebar. And that's just a really common thing that exists. They're actually kind of annoying. I don't really like them. They're good for blogs, but they're not that great for like a website. Websites don't usually use those. But often what they will do is instead create a sidebar, but it's the footer is the sidebar, which makes much more sense from a design standpoint. And because sidebar is usually like almost a secondary kind of navigation, which is generally what a footer is more often than not. Obviously it doesn't have to be, but that's usually, it contains secondary navigation. Usually things that you don't need, but if you're looking for something, you can find them down in there, okay? So that's what it's doing. So it's registering a sidebar, and then we're just giving it information. So the name of the first one, I just called it footer sidebar left, and then the other one I called footer sidebar right. I'm going to make our footer with a sidebar one side, so it's going to be 6 and 6 columns, okay? And then I just gave one the ID side, sidebar 2 and sidebar 1. And then before widget, I just basically added these this tag with these IDs, so that if we need to access them in some way, that's how you access them. And then before the title, it'll have an H3 that says widget or widget title. So if there's a title on it, it's going to be an H3. But you could change this if you wanted. And there's more options too. So literally just go on Google, type in register sidebar, and you can see what your options are. You can do that for any number of these things, and they're usually the first thing. We're on the internet, right? We're making internet content. The whole point of it is to share information. So you will find there are just a splendid amount, who says splendid? Splendid amount of information out there for you to gather, okay? So that will give us, that will register our sidebar. Now, just go ahead and save that, all right? And I just, like I said, I just copy and paste. I just didn't want to type all this up. And then if you go in here, and I'm going to refresh this, and you will see widgets. Okay, so what we're going to do, actually, let's come back to the widgets. Let's just go ahead and finish this, and I'll show you what the widgets do. So we went ahead and we registered these, right? So now we can apply widgets. Now let's go ahead and actually put them into our footer here. And it's going to be relatively easy. We can leave this part up here. All right, we don't need the H3 anymore. And let's go ahead and make our things, okay? So we're going to need a div class, okay, equals quotes row. We're going to do the same thing we did before, where we're going to make a row. Let's go ahead and close that row. Okay. And then inside that row, we'll put 2 columns. So tab, and I'm just going to make them both the same. So div class equals quotes. Oops, not that. What was it? It's col dash. And we're going to do this. 6 dash s. So it's going to take up half of the page, and like that. And then we'll go ahead and we will close that. And what I'm going to do actually is just finish this one. I'll just copy and paste it and change it for the other one. Now inside of this, because we're going to have a second one here. Actually, well, we'll just copy it. So Control C, just so it might be easier to see this way. Delete back. Okay. All right. So we have a row, and then we have 2 columns, and then inside of this column, we're going to go into PHP mode, and we're going to put our stuff in there. So PHP. And then inside the PHP, we're just going to do dynamic underscore sidebar. And then it's going to need some information. Let's just go like this. And let's close it out. And we have to send it some arguments so that it knows which ones what one we want to load. So this one's going to be on my left. So it's just going to be footer sidebar left, like that, right? Because if we go to functions, that's what I named it, footer sidebar left. So that's how I'm going to attach it. And I'm just going to go ahead and grab this whole PHP section, Control C, enter Control V. Let's tab this part in so it's nice and clean. Good. So that's going to put that in there, but we're not really quite done. We actually got to do 2 more things very simply. So one is we've got to close our body. Right? Because remember, we opened the body in this header, the top here. We opened the body. And now when we get to the footer, that's the bottom of the page. We have to close the body. And then we have to close the HTML. Okay? And go ahead and save that. And now go back here. And we will refresh this. Okay? And you can see, it's not going to change anything actually. But you'll see sidebar left and sidebar right. Now, the widgets, what they are basically they're modules, more or less, that you can drop and drag into the sidebar. And that allows you to add all sorts of things. So I don't have any galleries, but like if I want to have a search, right? I don't think I have this as a feature on mine, but let's just put that in there. So I can put a search in there. Let's call this, I don't know. Footer search, that's what we'll call it. Oops. Footer search. Okay, save that. All right, and then maybe on this side, I'm just going to go ahead and we'll do our pages. I'll put pages on this one. So you just click and drag it, and then we'll just say footer pages, sort by page title. That's fine, and hit save. Okay, so we put those in there, and you can actually add more too. Like I just put the 2 in there. But what's cool is that now when you go to your site, so we have our menu up here. You'll see on the bottom, there they are, footer search and footer search. Apparently it went in both of them. Hang on a second. Oh, you know why? I didn't change this one to right. Whoopsies. I wonder if you noticed that, but I did not. So let's save it. Let's reopen this up and refresh. It's like, why is it there twice? There we go. So now you say footer search and footer pages, and there they are. Okay. Now what's cool is that this makes it very dynamic so that the user can put in whatever widgets they want to put in here. Now, there are obviously only these ones currently that we're seeing. I should have chose just widgets from there. Where are you, widgets? Under appearance, widgets. There are only the ones that were, I thought I did widgets. Come on, widget. Jeez, it's taking forever. There are only the ones we see here, but you can download plugins that will give you more widgets. So like you could look for ones that give you social media icons, and then you could attach your social media on there, or like a more proper search, or they have this gallery one here. I don't know. You'd have to look them up, but there's all sorts of things we could put in there, and that makes it a lot more dynamic, and it's relatively easy to put in there in comparison to some of the other things. So that will be our footer. All right. So now we have basically a much more robust piece of site.